Hi, it's me again. For anybody that tried to tune into CIH Human Library on Friday the 26th of January, you would have noticed that we had a few technical difficulties, which meant that we started late, and due to a catastrophic user error by me, we lost the recording, which was really clever. So I had a good chat with the people over at CIH Futures HQ, hi Evie, Jem, and we agreed that I would do a short recap of what I covered just to cover it for anybody that missed it. So fingers crossed, we're away from the hustle and bustle of the Hackney Service Centre and in the relative peace and quiet of my kitchen, where I've got fresh coffee and a lack of technical difficulties, hopefully. This should run quite smoothly. So without further ado, let's get going. Who am I? Well, I'm James Sanderson. I'm the Resident Sustainment Manager at London Borough of Hackney's Housing Services and Chartered Institute of Housing and Inside Housing Rising Star 2017. Who am I outside of work? Well, I'm 29 years old. I was born in Wakefield. I grew up in Sheffield, and I've lived in South London since 2012. My sort of passions in life, other than housing, are music, film, outdoor stuff. I really enjoy sort of fell walking, getting out in the countryside, camping, cycling, skiing, that kind of stuff. Just love it. Getting a real adrenaline kick from it. And also, for anybody that has the misfortune of following me on Twitter, you will know that I am an avid Sheffield Wednesday fan. Although the less said about that this year, probably the better. So, moving on, my career to date. I left school in 2007, which is a long time ago now, frighteningly so, and I went into the civil service. I wasn't sure at that point whether I wanted to go to uni or not, but in 2008, after a year in the civil service, I went to Newcastle to study politics, and then went on to Sheffield University to do a Masters in International Political Economy, so quite a academic background, I guess. But at the same time as studying, I also worked on staff for a political party, which was an experience that taught me a lot. I took tons away from it, but definitely made me realise that I don't want to work in politics as a career or a thing in itself. It's just not for me, really. I'd also then done a bit of work as a policy officer in an educational charity called the Northern Learning Trust, which worked at the time with people that weren't in mainstream education, so people with special educational needs and people that were in pupil referral units. And my role there was around interpreting what the then big society agenda meant for them, which is a bit like asking somebody what the meaning of life is. It was pretty challenging, but a rewarding role. I also worked for both universities in sort of alumni relations and widening participation bits as well, which I really enjoyed. It was great. And in 2012, I finished studying and I went to Hanover Housing Association. They are a leading provider of retirement housing and extra care housing nationally. Originally, sort of first off as a graduate trainee, and latterly as a retirement housing manager, covering about 650 properties across sort of Oxfordshire, bits of Surrey, Berkshire, South Hertfordshire, so sort of big geographical area really. In 2015, I went over to Hackney Homes. I was really keen to get some experience in a general needs environment, and I started there as a team leader in their estate management team down at De Beauvoir and Shoreditch. So my area, I led a team of 8 people, and my area was around 4,500 properties, basically in De Beauvoir, Shoreditch, Hoxton, the south of the borough. It was a character building experience and a big change for me, but one that I enjoyed thoroughly. And then in 2016, I took on my current role, which is this resident sustainment manager / project manager role, where I was given a blank sheet of paper and the task of re-evaluating, reimagining and delivering a new service offer to vulnerable residents who live in our council managed homes, and there's 33,000 of those. We house 24% of households in the borough, and we provide half the social housing in the borough as well. So it's a large number of people potentially. So that's my career to date. I'll talk a little bit briefly about what gets me out of bed in the morning. Well, I think it's fair to say that I'm a political animal, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about partisan politics. That's not what this is about. But what I mean by that is that I do have a clear set of values around social justice, what's right, what's wrong, and what is fair. That's what drives me. And when I think about my ambition, I think kind of in the context about what Lisa Pickard said last week, around ambition not necessarily being something about going up in an organisation or climbing the slippery pole or whatever, but what drives you and what you want to achieve. I think very clearly that my ambition is to work in an environment and work for the benefit of people, not necessarily to put big dividends in shareholders' pockets. That's what motivates me, and I think that's why I think that work is something that I do and not somewhere that I just go to. So it could be a bit grandiose, but that's what drives me. So why did I get into housing? I think that's a good question that I was posed, and I know there's a lot of debate around this and what you should say and what you shouldn't say around did you fall into it. I'm just going to go straight out there and say that I did fall into housing. I've talked about my values. I knew what my ambition was. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what the best outlet for that was. When I got the opportunity to join Hanover in 2012, I knew very little about housing as a profession or the sector. There'd been nothing at school, nothing at college, nothing at uni, and my positive challenge to the Chartered Institute and to the good people at NatFed is to get out there and go to those careers days and those open days and talk about what housing organisations do, and I am more than happy to help you and get involved with that. I think it's really important to get out to those schools, colleges, universities, try and draw young people into the sector. As I said, I had none of that, so when I got the opportunity to join Hanover, it was a leap into the unknown, not just professionally, but also I had to move 200 miles away to start that job as well, so it was a big move. I suppose what persuaded me in the end was the one person that I did know that worked in the field was a family member who basically knew me and thought that I would find it really rewarding. And I haven't looked back. It was a great choice. I urge other people to do it. And I think rather than sort of think about falling into housing, how I tend to think about it now is in 2012 I fell into housing, but in 2013 I fell in love with it, and since then I have talked incessantly to anybody that would care to listen or not listen, as the case may be, about it and why it's amazing. So that's me. The meat of it, really, the main reason I'm here to talk is Rising Stars, my experience. So what made me apply? I was on a train up to Hereford actually for a weekend away, visiting some family, and it was Friday. So obviously I was reading Inside Housing, hot off the press, and I saw the sort of promo piece in there about Rising Stars, and I jokingly said to my partner that I should apply. Really wasn't serious about it at all, and she sort of jokingly retorted back to me that maybe I should, because it would mean that I'd give her a break from talking to her or at her about housing. Little did she know how that would pan out. I think it's fair to say that Rising Stars is not something that, or competitions of that ilk, it's not something that I would normally put myself forward for. I've kind of got this inbuilt sense of deference, and I kind of think that whilst nobody would say that I'm shy, or nobody knows me personally would say that I'm shy, I think it's just never having that sort of confidence really to sort of put your hand up and say, look at me, I think what I'm doing is really worthwhile. And I think at the time I'd spent the best part of 12 months, if not just over 12 months, doing this piece about vulnerable residents in Hackney, and setting up a new service. I'd really dedicated my entire time to that, and I was really proud of it. I was really proud of what I'd done there, and I wanted to shout about it. I wanted to talk about it. And also the opportunities put through the competition look great, in fairness. The opportunity to be involved in the process itself. The sort of Twitter Q&A, the interviews, the ability to sort of take myself out of my comfort zone and really challenge myself did kind of appeal to me. So I mulled it over. We sort of, as I said, we were away for the weekend. I mulled it over on some long walks in the country and a couple of pints of very nice Herefordshire Scrumpy cider. And on the way back to London, I wrote the application on the train. I kind of decided that, why not? I've got nothing to lose. Let's go for it. And that was kind of the start of the journey. So the process itself, I understand it's slightly different this year, but the process itself was similar in that the initial bit, in that I had to write an application. I think it was 1,000 words on what housing professionals of the past, what you could learn from housing professionals of the past, to inform the future, or something along those lines, and also like a short piece just summing up your career to date and your main achievements. That was submitted. I then had to do a live Twitter Q&A. I'd never done anything like that before, and wow, that was rapid. It was a really, really good experience. Just having questions fired at you, I think it was for half an hour, but it felt like 2 minutes. I didn't even get to drink my coffee, which I'd made in preparation. The interview that we did, which was with the panel, which included Melanie Rees, Emma Mayer and Greg Falvey, and they gave you a real grilling on professional ethics and my personal professional ethics. You had to talk around a number of situations that they gave you. I quite enjoyed that. I kind of, maybe it's the politics student in me, I don't know. I quite like those kind of like debates, and maybe I'm a bit weird. The next thing that we did was we went up to Bradford, Shipley rather, in communities to do a presentation. We worked on this together, myself, Vicky and Jamil, on why housing is a great career choice for young people. And the format of that event was that we were to pull together a presentation and deliver it to a group of graduates or participants on the GEMS programme. And there were a real mix of people. There were people that were on tools, there were people that were working sort of back office corporate functions, kind of like HR, and people training to be housing managers. And at the end, they had to, I think it was a combination of being judged by Martin Hilditch for Inside Housing, Geraldine Howley, and Vanessa Howell from CIH, and a vote from the GEMS graduates of who had the biggest influence on them, or who persuaded them to take that on, or was the most persuasive. The whole thing was fantastic. We had to do a blog, sort of, I think it was Pitching for Victory or something is what Inside Housing called it, just saying, in a few hundred words, 250 words, something like that, why I should be chosen as or win the competition that year. It was really competitive and really quite intense, but good. So I understand that this year the application is kind of the same. It's 250 words just about your career, and then 500 on why you should be included. I then understand that rather than 3 people being taken through the process, or a longer process, they're going to have an initial sort of long list with 15 who have to blog about why, who have to blog about why they want to go forward in the competition and take part in that live Twitter Q&A. After that, 6 will go through to a roundtable discussion with experts. I think it's exciting that they've shaken that up, and it looks like it's going to be a great competition. My application, I think it's probably worth just talking a little bit about this. We had to talk about, well, as I said, we had to talk about my career today. We had 1,000 words on, that's it, what lessons we should learn from the past and how this should shape the sector in the future. I kind of framed that discussion around demographic change, overarching policy goals of successive governments of all stripes, and the level of sort of supply versus demand, so the shortage, and what that means for the people that are now going into social housing, or the situation you have to be, quite frankly, to get a house, particularly through like council housing, for example. And then pose two questions following on from that, which was, well, does general needs or traditional general needs still exist? And if not, what is the role for housing professionals, frontline housing professionals? What's their job basically in that context? I suggested that traditional general needs does not exist anymore because of the pressures that I've mentioned, demographic change, policy, and the pressures on supply. And I spoke about how really the role of housing professionals is as social enablers, and providing that solid foundation stone upon which lives can be built or rebuilt. That was then informed, and this is the bit about lessons from the past, and that was informed really around local knowledge, and people having a good grasp on the communities that they're working in and how they manage that in the context of big data and the move to digital services and more flexible, remote, community-based working. That's what I talked about. So, what's happened since? Well, I think it's fair to say, when I was announced as the winner of the competition, I was completely speechless for days. Actually, struggled to kind of make sense of it. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that I'd gone straight from Glastonbury to an award ceremony, which was very odd, and while it probably looked quite sunburned in the photos. But yeah, without a doubt, it is the sort of proudest moment in my career to date. I was completely honoured and continue to be honoured that I got through the competition. And what's happened since? I think the really big things that I've taken away from it since winning it are a number of experiences, really, some of which I'll talk about. Got involved in the crisis policy consultation for plans to end homelessness, to give practitioner input into that, which was cracking. Jess Page from Notting Hill Housing got me involved on their sort of homeless prevention seminar with a number of people, somebody from Poplar Harker, the chief executive of the Big Issue Foundation, and a couple of other practitioners. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I apologise of where they were from. That was a really rewarding event, talking to staff at Notting Hill and Genesis about their work in that space. Got involved a little bit with stuff from the Collaborative Centre for Housing Evidence, which is good. Yeah, I do come from an academic background, and some of that academic researchy stuff I quite like. So it's interesting to see what's happening there, and I think there's some potential real exciting opportunities coming from that. When it really gets going. I think the biggest thing, also there's been great opportunities to build my personal network. I think I'm a great believer that in 2018, the networked individual, and I'm not talking about just the formal act of networking conferences and what have you, like the networked individual, whether that's a professional or somebody that we're trying to work with to help improve their life. The networks that you build around people are really important, and that's going to be the future. And how well you're able to network yourself is going to be the future of successful public services, basically, or housing services if we want to keep it local. I think without a doubt the sort of biggest thing that I've really taken from it is the mentoring that Chartered Institute Housing have offered me. Really fortunate to be working with Tony Stacey from South Yorkshire Housing Association, who, it's fair to say, was a bit of an inspiration to me prior to that, and I was honoured to find out that he joined CIH to get involved when he did this a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that's fantastic. That sort of coaching has really broadened my horizons. I was keen to look out just outside of local authority as well, having been from a housing association background. So yeah, working with him has been great. Some of the experiences that he's been able to share with me, which getting involved with the Homes with Kathy group. I went to the NatFed Yorkshire Number CEO Forum. It was a really good opportunity to meet people doing good things up there, and interesting to learn the challenges outside of London, because they are very different. The challenges that providers face. So my top tips for people that are thinking about applying this year are as follows. I think the first one, without a doubt, is have a clear idea about what you stand for, why you're entering, what drives you, and what you think you can add, not just to the competition but to the sector as a whole. I think it is quite challenging to think about that. I found that difficult, I must admit, in the early stages of the competition, particularly when I found out that I was through to the final. But yeah, have a really clear idea about that. I think, when I think back to my values that I talked about at the beginning, I really want to make social purpose and renewal of social purpose in this context, and the housing context, something that I wanted to talk about and kind of make it the theme of my entry, as it were. And I try to pepper that throughout. I touched upon it in my application, I touched upon it in some of the coverage that we had, and I touched upon it a lot on Twitter. I have a theme, have a clear theme. The next one is, I think, understand what it's going to entail. It does entail a significant amount of time. It's a big time commitment. And if you're like me, I'm a bit of a magpie. I will sort of think, oh, that's great, and dive headlong into it, and then think, oh, that's great, and do that. It was a good exercise in self-discipline, really, to try and balance thinking about rising stars and thinking about what next with the day-to-day work, running a new team, and providing the support that I needed to my colleagues. That's and sort of balancing the day job out, I think. And I think for that reason, it's really worth getting support from your employer up front. I was lucky Hackney were really supportive of me putting myself forward for it, and being involved in it, and have been throughout, which is great. I think it's important to have an upfront conversation with your manager or whoever you. We had to have a reference, so whoever is doing your reference for it, I think it's really important to get buy-in from them. The last one really is just go for it. If you're even thinking that you are going to put yourself forward, it's worth it. But before you do, make sure that if you don't have Twitter, get on it. Or like me, that you can remember your password, because I had not used Twitter for ages, and it is, we can debate the merits of social media, but it is a space where a lot of people are talking, and I have learned things from people and made contacts on there, and have then gone on to meet people in real life, IRL. It's really important, but that started on Twitter, and people do use it, people do read it. It's a good space to learn. I've had really positive experiences on there, so make sure you sort of dust that off. But overridingly, if you're thinking about it, just go for it. It has been transformative for me personally, in terms of personal development, professional development, but also it's a great experience. Just do it. Why CIH? I think it's a good question to ask, and it would be remiss of me not to talk about why I'm in the Chartered Institute of Housing, why I think it's important. So my relationship with the CIH really started by being on the Level 7 Housing Studies course. So that's the postgraduate certificate, which means when you complete it, you're chartered. So you can put CIH CM next to your name if you so choose. I did that alongside my work, and I think for me at the time I was just looking at CIH as somewhere where the resources were to assist me through getting through my course. I then got involved with the Rising Stars, which shone a whole other light on things in terms of the broader influencing policy, research and discourse around housing, and the people resources as well in terms of the members. And then through Rising Stars, and since then, I've really sort of seen the bigger value of it in terms of being able to talk to colleagues in different organisations, being able to test your ideas out, see what other people are doing and share. That's, for me, that's really, really, really important. I think the ability to share best practice and make those connections, it really adds value to what we do, the beneficiaries of which are our residents, customers, tenants, the people we work with, whatever way you choose to phrase it. So for me, I can't really sort of see myself going back from it. I think particularly, although I'm only going to get 1 year in, the deal at the moment where they're doing the membership for the year, and I think it works out £5 or £6 a month, what is it, like 60 quid a year for the under 30s, is fantastic. And I am always trying to encourage younger colleagues to get involved, because the resources are just great, the webinars, the online stuff, and the people. In terms of my ongoing journey with CIH, I did the course, I did the Rising Stars thing. I've recently signed up, or put myself forward to become a member champion, to try and get people sort of galvanised and talking about it at work, in my own environment. And I'm going to be meeting with Becky Clark to talk about that soon, which I'm excited about. And I would encourage you to do all the same. I think it's really about being part of the discussion. And if you're not part of the discussion, you're gonna miss out potentially, or miss a trick. It's really important to be involved. So do get involved.